So, welcome to the next episode of Forked Up Podcast. Today we have Chef Stephen Edwards, who is business owner and multi-award winning chef. So he has Etch down in Brighton and Hove, and he has Stephen Edwards, which is Richmond, and he has the experience. Is it the private dining experience at Brighton Hove Albion?
Yeah, it's called the Tunnel Club.
Yeah,
Really nice and interactive.
Cool. And also, I said multi-award winning, but probably one of the big ones which elevated you was Masterchef Professionals winner 2013. Many moons ago now, I would say. So welcome, Stephen. I've known you for a wee while, but only really properly met you a few weeks ago when I was down taking friends to a restaurant, which was amazing. And actually, I will say, from coming in 6 years ago before that to now, total different, even though the layout's different, but I think it's a total elevated service now. The food was off the scale, but the experience that my friends had was unbelievable, because some of them had never done taster menu before, never had that experience, but they love food and drink. And they have said to me it's one of the best nights they've had all year. They laughed the whole way through because it's that kind of environment. It was fun, interactive with the chefs coming. So I want to say really well done, because I think you're just flying just now. It's absolutely incredible.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
No, it's good. And I think as well, like one of the questions I did have down here, but I've kind of delved into it already, was the staff. I think the staff that you've got just now were really good. We were winding them up the whole time we were there, but it was like they made it a comfortable experience. They seem to want they want to be there, which is half the battle in this day and age, to be honest. So tell me, how did you get into cooking? So was it something you wanted to do when you were at school, or was it something that happened later?
I mean, it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. But to be honest, I never really saw it as a career. As I approached my early teens, I always wanted to be a footballer, like every young boy. And when you soon realise that dream isn't going to happen, it was almost like, what can I actually do with myself? And I've always been more of a practical, like physical worker. And I always enjoyed cooking at home. I enjoyed eating. That was like my main. Um, it sounds strange saying it's a hobby, but I enjoyed like experimenting at home with like different flavors. I'd cook for the family, like Sunday lunches or family events. I'd always do that. So it kind of just felt like a natural progression to go into the kitchen. And both my parents were in the industry. My mum was a housekeeper and my dad was a general manager in hotels. So I had that hotel background and it kind of felt normal.
Hmm. So was that your first job from leaving school, was it?
Yeah, so what happened then is I spoke to mum and dad and said I wanted to go into the hospitality industry. And, you know, back then, we're talking, 20 years ago or 21, 22 years ago, they didn't want that for me. They knew it was hard work. They knew that it was
Hmm.
long hours and not financially rewarding. And but they went with it. They kind of set me up with a few opportunities, or what I think my dad liked to say was almost like experiences that might scare me off. So I worked with Paul Rankin and Gary Rhodes. My dad had those connections, so I did a week with each of those chefs, and I came back and I absolutely loved it. I think my dad was shocked. I think he thought I was going to say, we're finishing at 11 o'clock at night. It was long days on our feet, but I don't think he could have chosen two worse chefs to put me off the industry, because they were both exciting, fun, energetic people. That really was everything that I was looking for a job.
Hmm. And it's funny, really, though, because the difference in the industry back then to now, it's like chalk and cheese now, because of the hours that chefs do, the shouting environment's gone. In a way, we've kind of gone full spectrum, but totally at the other side. It's a wee bit too wishy-washy now, but it needed change. But I think back when you started, your parents were probably expecting you to get scared off with that environment because it was quite a cutthroat environment, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, very masculine. I mean, it still is masculine.
Hmm.
But going back from a sports perspective, I think when you speak to a lot of chefs, they just want that teamwork, that bond, feeling part of a family. I mean, you spend more time with these chefs than you do with your family. So I
Hmm.
think if you find that bond and connection, then it's a great career to be part of. But you're absolutely right. Now it almost feels less connected. It almost feels like a job now. And I think if you're going to go far in this industry, you have to love what you do. You can't
Hmm.
be counting the hours and thinking, you know what, I've done that hours there, that hours over here. What have I got back from it? The way I look at my week is, I honestly feel like the more I put in, the more I get out. And
Hmm.
like you said, you came to Etch 6 years ago. You came to Etch recently, and you've noticed a massive difference. And that isn't from us kind of going to work doing a 9 to 5. That's from us going above and beyond and kind of putting those extra
Hmm.
hours in and making those small steps forward, as I like to call them. I think, we don't have to make giant leaps to get better. We just have to almost think, actually, what can we do this week to improve the experience?
And Etch, how many days a week are you open there at Brighton Hove?
So open for just 4 days. So it
4 days,
sounds like the
yeah.
dream job. So double shift, four double shifts. So the guys are, I guess, contracted to 48 hours a week, but we'll probably do around 50, 52.
Hmm.
But then we've got other things around that. We do events, which are quite successful. We've obviously got the Tunnel Club at Brighton and Hove. So, for example, this week we've got some of the team working on the production for,
Hmm.
for the game on Sunday. And we just try and make it a bit more varied because I think although the Wednesday to Saturday gives that consistency for the team, I think ultimately when you're a chef, you want to learn as much as you can. You want to see different ingredients, and that's
Hmm.
kind of like why we try and change the menu so often. We change two or three dishes every week, and it evolves throughout the year.
I think that it's quite funny the amount of businesses that are now reduced hours. I think they kind of have to the economic climate. You can't be sitting burning all the gas, electric, and such like if there's no one coming in either. Especially on a Monday, Tuesday. But I think you need to be that hours to have to have a head chef because otherwise, realistically, with the amount of hours that chefs are willing to do now, you would need two head chefs realistically, wouldn't you? And that's when it starts having a bit of a conflict of what's going on. Different if it's you and you're hands on and you're letting head chef have his day off or whatever. But in a lot of businesses, with the amount of hours, it's two teams almost, and it gets quite difficult when it's run like that. People kind of they learn more. But on the other hand, do you think your chefs learn more being off so they can go and see places and test other places rather than just working?
I mean, for me, and I might be different to a lot of other chefs, is that I quite enjoyed working long hours. I quite enjoyed throwing myself into an
Hmm.
80 or 90-hour week because I
Hmm.
felt I was doing more than everyone else. So I was learning more and I was
Hmm.
kind of accelerating my career. And I think that's why I've got to where I am today. But definitely, I think as any young chef who might be listening to this, I think you need to put yourself out of your comfort zone as much as you can. So if you've got that nice job, which there is lots of nice chef jobs now, and you're working 40, 48 hours, maybe on one of your days off, if you get three, actually, I'm going to do a stage. Then that could be difficult because most restaurants are closed Sunday to Monday now.
Hmm.
Um, or, take one extra day holiday and go work somewhere. Well, speak to chefs like, well, we've got this thing, our phones now, and it connects us to the world. And I never had that when I started as a chef. If I want to
Hmm.
message Tom Kerridge, I can message Tom Kerridge. He might not reply, but I can still go down that avenue. If I don't get Tom, who's his head chef? Do I message him on Instagram? If I don't get
Hmm.
him, one of the chef de parties. All the information's there in front of us now. And I
Hmm.
think as a young chef, you can do what you want to do, and also the variety of restaurants is huge. Like when I started, it's like there was only a handful of chefs that were really making a name in the industry, and now you can probably count over hundreds that
Hmm.
that you'd learn a lot from.
I think you touched on a quite important part at the very start. There was about the amount of hours you'd done and you wanted to. Because I was the same. I when I first started getting into it, I wanted to work every hour.
Mm.
Actually, it's why I was such a failure before in family life, because all I focused on was business. It's why I've got such a successful business and a disastrous personal life. Although that's changed now, but then I've worked the balance out. But I think that's why you're the owner of a successful business, because like you said, you accelerated your career because you wanted to do it. The people the people that want it but don't want to put the work in are never going to get there. You've got to physically put the work in to get over that line, take the risk, So working all them hours is a risk, and you took that risk. You went and um, done some experience with Gary Rhodes and that, so that it was at the very start. That was, the warning sign to get you out of the industry early just accelerated you further, didn't it? So where did you go? Where did you go after you finished with that two trials?
So after that, I think I spoke to my parents, and they wanted me to kind of stay in education. And I think at that time as well, there was a big push on apprenticeships. So
Mm-hmm.
um, we grew up in Windsor, and there was an apprenticeship program at a place called Burnham Beeches Hotel, which at the time was quite a special hotel. It looked after the England football team, for example. So that was enough to get me excited about wanting to work there and kind of share my passion of cooking, and also having a chance to meet some of my idols in the footballing world. The good thing about the apprenticeship is it paired me alongside the head chef, so I was learning what he wanted to teach me, but still ticking off the curriculum. So instead of kind of working at college where it'd just be, I don't know, one of them could be like different cooking methods of fish where you're grilling, frying, poaching, filleting, in the preparation. I was able to do that alongside the head chef who had, I think it was just one or two rosettes at the time, but everything was home cooked. And I was actually seeing it being prepared, cooked, and then going out to the restaurant, which I don't think I mean, I know colleges now have got restaurants, but I always describe college as almost like you love cooking, but you don't know where you want to go with it. And the spectrum of being a chef is huge. Like you can do anything from working in a production kitchen all the way to a three-star restaurant. And I think college is that place if you're not sure what you want to do. I knew I wanted to do fine dining after working with Gary Rhodes and Paul Rankin. But I also needed to learn how to cook properly first before I started working my way up through my career.
Mm-hmm. And who was your mentors that you've had through your career or have now even?
Yeah, I mean, the chefs I've worked with instantly go down as my mentors because I've always chosen to work with chefs where I was learning directly from them. I chose to work in small teams, and I felt that's the best way for my career. But in terms of chefs I looked up to, I started off with Jamie Oliver when I was younger, and then after that, Gordon Ramsay Boiling Point. I loved that program. Again, something that could possibly put someone off the industry, but I loved the fact that everyone was working as a team for the same goal in Boiling Point, and Gordon Ramsay took no prisoners in achieving that goal. Um, and I wanted to be part of that team. I almost like regret not going to work in London, for Gordon Ramsay because I just loved watching that program so much. Um, but then more recently, I love the British food scene. So chefs like Simon Rogan really stand out as a leader of that, doing like modern British foods, but really using great British ingredients and singing and shouting about it.
Mm-hmm. I was I was at Simon Rogan's Lacloom just a couple of months ago.
Very jealous.
What an experience that was. Oh, I tell you, what an experience. Stayed over. And actually, the package for staying, dining, and bed and breakfast, bear in mind, you're going into a one star for your breakfast.
Mm,
Although you're that food hungover from the night before, the breakfast is really not like total priority at the time. But
yeah.
one of the things that I really like, again, service was off the scale in there, but not stuffy service. It was for 3 stars. I mean, we're talking absolutely unbelievable. Like, and they gave us a plant away with us. It was just a seedling plant, and it was beef mint. And they said this was what we used in some of the cooking today. Take that home, and that'll be a memory of your trip. And we use it all the time now, and you just think,
Wow.
God, how simple is that? How
Yeah.
it's clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so simple, and it's memorable because when you go into your kitchen and it's sitting there, it's a memory again of what that experience was. It's something else what they're doing there, like unbelievable. And you said when we were down, when I was down a few weeks ago, that Pierre Kaufman was an influence as well. Did you work for Pierre Kaufman? Did
Yeah,
you?
so I did a week with Pierre Kaufman as one of my stages, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Again, making sure that it wasn't one of his kitchens; it was with him working. That's really important to me to be working alongside him. And oh, to be honest, I was so scared of him. I don't really. I think I only really spoke to him on a level at the end of the week. I think the whole week went by. I was just like, yes, chef, I'll do this. And it got to the end of the week, and I was like, would you be able to sign my book? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay. Just like went to walk off, but he was obviously joking, and he was really lovely. But he doesn't say a lot in the kitchen, and it just fascinated me that he commanded
Hmm.
this like aura, like the way he walked about the kitchen was just I don't know. Going back to the boiling point, Gordon's like quite a shouter. He lets himself known, lets everyone know that he's there. Whereas Pierre Kaufman, you just knew he was there because you could feel it in the air, and
Hmm.
he's a big guy.
Hmm.
The way he prepared pig's trotters was just unbelievable. I think it was like 30 seconds of trotter. I think I got down to about 2 minutes 30 and I was happy. Obviously, Pierre wanted more from me and he wanted me to do them quicker, but he was, yeah, just on another level.
Tom Kitchen was telling me when he used to work for him, and he said that again exactly what you said. Very quiet in the kitchen, but his presence was really known. And he says he didn't even think he knew his name because he didn't speak.
Mm,
But then he came up and he tapped him on the shoulder and he offered him I can't remember what it was. It was maybe a trotter or something, to eat. And he was like, "Wow, Pierre Kaufman's let me have something to eat," because it was meaning he was respecting you. You knew just the simplest of things, but it made so much to you, and it was a memory that stuck with him. So it's funny how the difference in that two presences, between Gordon, still getting the same out of people,
yeah.
but just doing it in a total different dynamic. So what made you what made you decide to open your own restaurant? Was that propelled from MasterChef?
Yeah, 100%. I think after winning MasterChef, I wanted to almost do it justice. I think when you
Hmm.
put yourself through that process, you almost got to think, why am I doing this? And I wanted it to change my life. So for me, there was no point in doing MasterChef, winning it, and then going back to the job I had before, which was a good, I was a head chef of a five-star hotel, two rosette restaurant. So that for me, I'd already achieved those dreams. And I think after MasterChef, I was like, right, let's take a risk, let's take a gamble and really go for it. And it was a massive gamble. It's such hard work having your own restaurant, but also very
Yeah.
rewarding. Because everything that comes from the positive side of things. You've kind of created that. It started off in your head, and now it's an actual business. That's for me, Etch has been running for 10 years totally, and almost
Hmm.
7 years as a restaurant, and that blows my mind sometimes.
And when you entered MasterChef, was this the first time you'd entered it? Was it?
Yes, yeah.
And did you enter truly believing you could win it, or did you enter it to see how far you'd get?
So the entering process was quite weird, really, because what happens with the professional chefs is places like South Lodge where I worked got an email saying would they like to put anyone forward or to
Hmm.
apply. And me and my wife had just had our second child, so we had two kids under the age of three. That was my executive chef Lewis, who was like, Steve, I really think that you should do this. And I was like, okay, maybe now's not a great time. And he was like, no, like I really believe in you. And he just kept pestering me, like where you have. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps about it now. He honestly had a feeling that I could go in and win it. Whereas for me, I thought I was a good chef, but I wouldn't, I'm only comparing myself to myself. I wasn't, I wouldn't have said, oh wow, like, I stand out in a crowd of chefs. And but he just kept going on and on at me, and in the end, I just filled out the forms of chefing up, to be honest. And it was actually a really nice feeling because it almost gave me the confidence. He had that confidence in me, but also it felt
Hmm.
like, you know what, if it all went tits up, I, in my head, I could just blame him. I'd never blame him like verbally or like just go into his office and complain to him. But it almost takes the pressure off you a little bit because obviously I've entered a lot of competitions in my career. I've won some, I've lost
Hmm.
some, but the main thing with those is they're all behind closed doors. So unless you
Hmm.
tell someone, no one knows that you've lost the competition. The problem with MasterChef is that you are being watched by millions of people. So any
Hmm.
mistake you make is going to be broadcast, and that's your career on the line. Especially, I was going into it as a head chef, not chef de partie or sous chef. I was going into that competition as a head chef, so I knew I had to perform. I had like no excuses not to at least get to the quarterfinals, really. And I think that's where the pressure lifted for me.
And at what point did you believe you could win it?
I felt from the quarterfinals that I was, I think, I don't know if you ever watched it, but I was paired with Adam Handling,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
is a fantastic chef. And what happened unusually is that we were paired I think we were paired in the semi-final. So one of us was going home, and we both
Hmm.
went to dinner by Heston, and we cooked. We did a service. Ashley Palmer Watts gave us a couple of dishes, and they couldn't split us there. We then came back to the studio. I think we had to do a two-course menu, obviously both very different foods. And again, the judges couldn't split us, so they actually then put four of us into the final, which I think might have
Hmm.
been the first time. And it was from then because I saw Adam as the front runner. I thought, you know what, I've got a chance here. If we're neck and neck at the moment, I've got every chance to win this. But I'll be brutally honest, I wasn't really focusing on anyone else. I was just focusing on my, me. I was just trying to
Hmm.
cook the best I could. And if I was happy, if I went home that I'd cooked the best I could, that would be enough for me. I know that's a weird thing
I
to
think
say,
that's
being so
no.
competitive, but when you're
It's
talking
not.
about what's your favorite dish, it's really difficult, isn't it, to
Hmm.
say, is that a
Hmm.
better chef or is that a better person? You've literally just got to cook and make sure you make no mistakes.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like this is what I teach my clients, and I always say to them, you stop focusing on everyone else's businesses and focus on your own business. Because when you're following everyone else all the time, you don't you take your eye off your own product, your own
Mm,
business, and you start trying to be someone else.
yeah.
And you're best being the best version of you rather than the second best version of someone else. So just focus on you. And if you just focus on you and you don't win, you were beaten by someone, it might have just had one better dish that day. Or it just floated the boat of the judges. That's all it takes. Doesn't mean to say that your food wasn't as good. It just wasn't what they were looking for on that day. Doesn't mean to say forever, but on that day. Because Adam went on and won it. What was it? Next year, was it? Or the year after that?
He did, it was Great British Menu that he did after
Yeah,
that. And I think he went out of Great British Menu and then came back and won that. So
yeah,
Adam's like
yeah.
one of these chefs that's so competitive and he wants to win, but he doesn't take defeat. I think he learns a lot from like a defeat in a situation like that. And it makes him rethink his process and he comes back stronger and stronger. Like I knew he was going to win Great British Menu. I knew it, like even if he went out, that because he's that sort of. If you look at his career, like the changes he's made to his food over the last 10 years, it is phenomenal. Like you said about my food over the 6 years, I'd say they're
Well,
less drastic changes. Whereas Adam's
I
just
said,
he's tried different
I,
processes.
uh-huh. Big difference there. I was in Frog, Jesus, not long after it opened, and then I was in there maybe 6 months ago with my wife because she was desperate to go in. It was actually the day that he won, or the day that he won his Great British Menu. That was the
Yeah,
day we were in, and uh, we sat on the chef's table, the counter, and I tell you what, I said to chef that night, the food again from when I came in 6 years ago or so before was chalk and cheese. It was like they do that langoustine and the wagyu beef dish, and it is shit hot, and it was really good before, but it's the same ingredients. They've just made it different,
Refined it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, totally, and it's almost like it was trying too hard before, whereas now it's just singing. It's like huge difference in that place. You know what I mean? Like I think he's a great chef, but he takes it personal. But that's how he's got where he's got.
Yeah, yeah.
And without a doubt, So what? So from winning MasterChef, obviously that was a massive thing for you. Did you know straight away that you were going to go and open your own business from that moment, or was it a sit back and think, or was there lots of offers coming in actually?
So the process again, so with the professionals, the winner is decided in the middle of summer. So
Hmm.
there's a winner for this year, but it won't be aired until I think it's like 2 weeks before Christmas or the end of November, and then the winner's
Hmm.
announced 2 weeks before Christmas. So right now there's a winner, and they said they've got this period of time that's whatever it is, 4, 5, 6 months, knowing
Hmm.
that they've won. And I had that at the same time, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do? So I started setting up a website, started kind of setting up
Uh,
this concept etch. So the good thing for me is like I was a head chef. I was working with someone else, but we had like restraints in terms of what we could do. Like the restaurant was 100 covers. It's a hotel restaurant. We had to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there's
mhm,
a lot of like things to kind of tick off the box before a dish could go on. So I set up Etch in the thought of, you know what, we're going to do a tasting menu. It's going to be my food that I want to cook with almost like nothing off the table. And started doing pop-ups towards the end of the year before MasterChef
mhm,
even aired. So I was just doing these pop-ups and just testing my food out on complete strangers. Because it's one thing to, testing your food out on your family and your friends who always give you lovely feedback or really brutal feedback. But testing it out on paying guests was kind of my next stage. Did I know
mhm.
I wanted a restaurant at that stage? Probably not. I just knew I wanted to have my own business and I wanted to do something with the MasterChef title.
And so from winning or announcing it was won, how long was it before you opened Etch?
So obviously one at the end of 2013. Uh, so you could say like January 2014, and then we opened in March 2017. So three and a bit
3 years.
years. So it
Hmm.
wasn't um, it wasn't like a smooth sailing thing. I think opening a
Yeah.
restaurant and starting a business where you need funding is actually a very difficult thing to go through. And although at the time I said MasterChef was the hardest thing I ever did, I think opening a restaurant was the hardest thing I did. And then since then, expanding the restaurant was the hardest thing I've done. I don't like, I think it stems from MasterChef. I love putting myself out of my comfort zone. And I think we spoke about this, like sometimes it works, like the risk pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think to learn as much as you can, you've got to take risks. And
You learn more from the failure of it though, don't you? So if
yeah,
something doesn't go smooth, it's a kick in the teeth at the time. But when you sit back and you look at it, it's a great learning curve, and there's so much information to be had by the failure. No one does anything without failure. That's a total impossibility. So like one of the biggest, hardest things I had in business was I had a business partner at the very, very start. He was the most vocal, silent business partner you could imagine. It took 2 years to get rid of him. Fuck, it was a hard time. It was like it was taking me to the edge, but it actually made me grow up pretty quick. It made me it made me learn a lot. It made me learn about trusting people. Um, but when I look now about how hard that was at that time, it does. I don't even remember it being a hard time now. But
mm,
if I think if I had that problem now, shit, it'd be catastrophic. It'd be catastrophic now because it was at the start of my career.
yeah,
Now I'm well founded, So you need to have these slips and trips and falls. What's one of the biggest slips that you've had a lesson from, which has ended up being a positive lesson?
yeah. I think just opening the restaurant, like why did it take 3 years to go from winning? to actually having a physical building, then that process is it's heartbreaking because I
Mm-hmm.
must have looked at about three, four, five sites, tried to raise investment for those sites, getting things like surveyors in, paying surveyors fees because you want to make sure it's all, in line with your plans. And
Mm-hmm.
you kind of fall in love with a site, invest money and time into it. So each time we had a site, I was investing £5,000 into that site, and as soon as it fell, that's £5,000 gone. So if you take Etch was like the fourth or fifth version of that, and I was running out of money. I was running out of money. I was running out of energy. It was crushing. It was crushing me. And I always remember looking at. I thought you've probably seen it a lot. The cartoon of the man digging through the rock, and he doesn't know how far away he is. And it felt like that was what was going on with the start of Etch. It was the last throw of the dice to get 216 Church Road, and I just threw everything into it. We took more gambles with getting shareholders on board because it's a whole chicken and an egg thing. No shareholder's going to invest in you without physical property. So with
Mm-hmm.
Etch, we kind of did it, or with the building 216, we did it differently where it was myself and a business partner took on that lease before getting investment, which is a dangerous thing to have to do because we would have been left with a 20-year lease by ourselves if we didn't have investment. But we needed to do that. We needed to go through that, and that was a massive gamble. And I was having sleepless nights.
Do you think that you were looking for the perfect location and the perfect building? Like, so you'll get a location, but it might not be the way inside that you want it. It's a very hard thing to find. It's a perfect place, isn't it? Was
Yeah, I
Edge
think
perfect, or was it just a last
no.
throw of the dice and you went for it?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot from the four failed attempts before, and I think
You
obviously
learned
not
that you could
having.
have put a stove in for that 20 grand.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could have done that, but I think what it taught me was what the process needs to be because at that time in 2017, a restaurant would come up and it'd be gone within 2 or 3 months. So we
Mm-hmm.
had to react quickly. We had to move quickly. So every time we're missing out, I mean, one time we missed out because the surveyor just condemned it. He just said, "You've got to be stupid to go in there. It's going to cost so much money." So that was easy. Walk away from that. It kind of felt like a good
Mm-hmm.
feeling. But the other two or three were because we're too slow in moving. We'd find the place, quickly draw up some plans, kind of put together a quick business plan, and we're just slow. So when Etch came up, the last row of the dice was like, let's go all in, let's get it, do the business plan afterwards, and
Mm-hmm.
that it was not a logical way to do it because if you look at that, that's a huge risk. And my business partner, um, was telling me like this isn't the right, this isn't the right way we should be doing it. But I was just so forceful. I was like, no, we need to do this, otherwise it's not happening at all. And it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
that's why it felt like the last roll of the dice. And I think lots of chefs come up to me and said, "How do you get a restaurant?" I don't know. It's not an easy thing to describe. You need to have money. You
No.
need to have you need to put guarantees on the line, and then you need to raise investment off the back of it. I think anyone that invests money in an idea that doesn't have a physical building is either your best friend or they really, really believe in
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah, you're needing the foundations first before they've got to see something, haven't they? It's there's no way they're going to put money into
Yeah,
a whim,
yeah.
not unless
But
they're not
also,
unless they've got. Sorry, on
yes,
you
so,
go.
yeah, I was just saying, and also, like, you might be the best chef in the world, but like running a business is very different to running a kitchen. I mean, you could probably look at some correlations, but it's a very different kettle of fish. And I find it hard sometimes because my strength is running a kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
um, and everything to do with Etch has all been quite new to me. I've kind of had to learn on the go and challenge after challenge, like whether it's COVID, like what we're going through now, this up and down in the
Mm-hmm.
economy. These are all challenges that I'm facing being a relatively new business owner.
I think that's something that you do find common is a lot of chefs that come in and they end up becoming business owners. It's a big struggle for them because they're used to having a budget. buying the produce they want. But then when it's your own business, you want the best produce.
Mm.
But you've got to realise you've got to make money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they can run a kitchen, they can make amazing food, but they can't run a business. It's quite a common theme. It's again, that's something that I try to teach my clients as well, about delegation as well. If you're something you really can't do, delegate it out rather than spending all day trying to do the books. It's
Mm.
pointless. And all these sites that you look for, were they all Brighton area? Were they?
Yeah. So there's certain things that I knew I wanted from a restaurant,
Hmm.
like the pre-work that had gone in. I wanted it to be a city location. I think the reason behind that is because a lot of my career I've been working in country house hotels in the middle of nowhere, which sounds lovely and idyllic, but I kind of saw all the weaknesses to having that as a business in terms of trying to recruit the team, in terms of getting people to your location. I think for me, when I look at Brighton, I was just like, wow, that's a tourist destination in itself. So if we can be there, people will come from afar. And also by doing, so I spent three years doing pop-ups all over the country. So it's all very well doing these pop-ups like down in Devon, up in Leeds, um, and all over and everywhere in between. But actually, how am I going to bring this database that I built down to my restaurant? And I think by having it as a city, it kind of gives them an excuse not just to come for me, to be like, actually, let's go have a city breakdown in Brighton. We could do this, this, and this, and then come and have dinner with Steve. And that was kind of the business model that I was going for, rather than a remote location where I just think it's risky on a lot of different fronts.
Yeah, a remote location becomes an occasion because you've got to go out your way to go to it. It's which is great, but it's again. You said one thing there that made me think straight away was recruiting. When you're when you're out in the sticks, you're limiting yourself to who's going to come and work for you for a start. One of the things that stands out to me though is when I first went to Brighton 8 years ago or so, and the food scene in Brighton is off the scale, like amazing. The amount of decent restaurants that are in that area and produce, there's some great produce around that area as well. And it really, really stands out. But the price point, it's like you're getting London quality food, but not at London prices. That's what I would probably say. Do you think that's why the scene's so good? Because it's a more afford. Is it more affordable? Obviously, more affordable than London, surely, to be there. Um, but at the weekend, you've just got London coming to the coast anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%. I think I agree with everything you said there. It's an hour on the train from London. That's a great selling point. I think the amount of chef-owned restaurants in Brighton, if you looked at it as a percentage compared to other cities, it must be up there with the top. You know, and I think once there's weaknesses to chef-owned restaurants, but the biggest strength I think you touched on is the chefs want it to be good. The chefs are always fighting that battle between I want the best quality produce, but I've got to make a bit of money. I think when it becomes not a chef running the business, it's very much about actually, you know what, we'll drop down on the quality, we'll just make a bit more money. You've got those levers that you're pulling, and I think chefs will always it's their name on that dish, so
Hmm.
they want to use the best they possibly can. Rather than make it a couple of quid extra. I think
Yeah, it
9 out of 10 chefs would
becomes about GP
yeah,
margin more rather than
yeah,
about the experience, doesn't it? Yeah. And
yeah.
so tell me, so you've got a young family. Well, they're not so young now, I don't suppose. But what does your day look like? How do you fit family and business? Is that a problem?
Yeah,
Do you find that difficult?
I think it is a problem that I've been trying to manage for the last 3 or 4 years, definitely.
Hmm.
Luckily, my wife is really supportive. She's the foundation of my success, essentially, and that started way before Masterchef. We've known each other 20 years, so
Hmm.
she's been my biggest cheerleader. I think, like, what does a week look like for me? So I'm in Etch every Friday, Saturday night, unless I'm away on holiday. I'm at the Bingham one day a week or two shifts a week, so that could be a Wednesday and Friday daytime, or it could be all day Wednesday, all day Tuesday. And then in between there, we've now got the Tunnel Club, so that's a new operation that needs a lot of my time. and that's where it's quite stressful at the moment. Is that I'm juggling the two balls, and we've just thrown another one in there. But like anything, you need to put as much time and energy into the beginning of it to make sure it's a success moving down the line in 2, 3 years' time.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of my day to day is admin. So take away the Friday, Saturday night, and a couple of nights at the big one. It's then admin doing. So I'm just sat at my desk, either doing things to do with Etch, doing things to do with like recipe development, or what we're going to focus or move on. But you know, where are we now? We're the third of October, so for Etch, we're thinking about January. So we just
Yeah.
released our January menus. We just released our January bookings. So that's what my last couple of days have all been focused on. But the good thing with working from my desk, it normally means I get the evening off. And that's where the kids will start coming home from school about 3:30, 4 o'clock. So as long as I start early enough, I normally start about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm then free in the evening to then spend time with them on those days. So the hard thing for me is I've got these 6, 7 o'clock starts, and I've also got 10, 11 o'clock finishes
Yeah.
in the restaurant. So it makes the week feel really long. But I think I need to do that to kind of tick all the boxes. I need
Hmm.
to run a business. I need to show my face in the restaurant. I need to be part of the restaurant. And I also need to do admin and paperwork. But most importantly, I need to be there for my family.
Yeah, that's so like one of the things that I teach with the Forked Up, they've got a 90-day program where folk come on board and they learn how to manage and delegate. But one of the biggest problems is when I always say to folk, they say, "I don't have time for that," and I say, "Show me a calendar," because no one has a calendar and they don't have anything booked in. And it's funny how like I can still have an office day and I can spend all day in the office and not get a shit lot done. But if I book it into the calendar exactly
Mm.
what I'm doing in them slots, it's funny how you actually get so much more done in a lesser time. But one of the things that I learned is
Yeah.
one of the things that I learned was that you need to your life's a bit like a jigsaw, and you always go for the edges and the outside, and then you start filling all the rest. Now, what generally happens in hospitality is the last few pieces is the bit that the family get. And actually, it's
Mm.
wrong. They should be getting some of this stuff around the corners, not the stuff in the middle. Because when you do have time with them, normally what happens is you're burnt out, or you're still on this because you've still got
Mm.
messages coming in, and that's what I try and teach. That's what I try and teach my clients about how to. You can actually be more productive by being more structured, and it's like game changer for me. But it's a common theme because it's difficult to let go or delegate. So if you didn't want to do some of that paperwork today, is delegating it off. But it's really difficult because it's hard for you to feel that they're doing the same job as what you could do. But the unfortunate thing is, you've got to learn that they're probably still doing a good job, but you're actually getting a bit of life out of it too. It's a real hard balance in life. Um, so, do you? What kind of hobbies do you have, or is there zero time for that?
Yeah, I mean, football is still a hobby. I probably play in the Veterans League now, which kills me to say. But I play probably 6 or 8 times a year, so not
Hmm.
crazy. I enjoy sports with, I mean, my son loves playing football, but I enjoy doing sports with him. So generally a Sunday we try and go out for a bike ride,
Hmm.
try and do swimming every Saturday morning, just things like that are general hobbies. But I just want to touch back on what you said a minute ago was so important. I think, when you ask me how I balance my life, I would only say it's become more balanced in the last year.
Hmm.
And to do that, I had to be regimented, like you said. And it's almost, I've now got two phones. I used to have like one phone with two SIM cards. That is, it was bullshit. Like you think you've got control over it, but you've got no control
It's just easy to
because
flick it.
Instagram, WhatsApp,
Yeah.
yeah, everything was still coming through the phone. So having two phones at the start of this year it's been a massive eye opener for me. And I now charge my phone by my desk. It's little things like in my head. So I
That's
charge my phone, have my
yes.
watch by my desk. So as soon as the kids come home from school, the phone is then over there.
Hmm.
And there's only a couple of people that got my personal
Hmm.
number, one being my head chef,
Hmm.
and he knows it has to be an absolute emergency to call that. So I've still got that control element on there. But what's so refreshing is to be able to use a phone without
Getting drawn in.
notifications popping up. Yeah, so I've got no Gmail on there. I've only got like personal social media on there
Hmm.
and personal WhatsApp. So it's actually quite rare for me to receive anything in an evening. And it almost feels a bit weird. I've literally got my phone next to me, but nothing's going on with it. And it's actually such a nice feeling. And the other thing you touched on was doing the tasks. And again, that's only something I've done in the last year was just like highlighting tasks in almost like red, amber, and green.
Yeah,
It's almost like what needs doing today. What is vital that I do today? If I've got time, what could be done today as a spillover in amber, and what needs to be done soon but isn't urgent today is kind of how I do my
yeah, that's
tasks.
great.
And you'd you'd think a chef would be good at that because it's exactly the same as a mise en place list. There's no point chopping charts before you start making a stock if they're both on your list.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like you need to do the jobs that are going to take longest in the kitchen first. And I think what was hard for me is almost always starting with the longest jobs from a management point of view. So when I looked at my list before, it's almost like, right, what's the biggest jobs? And I'd start them and feel like, you know what, nothing is getting done. But sometimes, do you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Like in a
100%.
kitchen, because those jobs are going on while you're doing something
Hmm.
else. But the hard thing when I'm in an office is that those jobs aren't going on. Like you need to start them and finish them, the big jobs. And I know I could just be talking and rambling a load of
You know,
rubbish,
no,
but hopefully you get what I'm
no,
trying to say. It's
100%.
like there could be a massive task, but it doesn't need to be done today.
Yeah,
And that's a hard thing for me to actually put that to tomorrow, put that to the end of the week. I need to concentrate. I need this done for tomorrow. I need this done. I need this ordered. And that's kind of how my diary works
the,
now. It's a lot.
the nugget
I'm not
there.
saying it's perfect because I've still got a lot of emails in my mailbox, but I feel a lot more in control of what I'm doing now.
Yeah, the nugget there though is the traffic light system. It's a great way of working. Because I always say, even at shop with mise en place, I'll say to the staff, right, do the fucking shit job first, because
Yeah,
you always leave cutting langoustines.
your horrible
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah, no one wants to foot and
Yeah,
split langoustines. Do that first, get it out of the way, and then life's a lot easier the rest of the day. But funny, I've got my phone on charge in here, and it used to be bedside, but it's easy to pick it up as soon as you wake up or when you're in
yeah,
bed. I put it in here now, so when I come in, I journal at night and in the morning, so
yeah.
I don't touch it until that point, and it's hard to do. But I done for the first time. I went away on family holiday to Turkey in the summer there, and I decided I was going to do a no phone holiday. And that's a revelation for me, right?
Wow.
So I said, right, what
Yeah,
I'll do is I'll check it in the morning when I get up, and then I'll put it in the safe, and then I'll check it at night, and then I'll put it back in the safe. And it was strange to start with. Hardest thing was I couldn't take photos because normally,
yeah. That's what.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I thought, well, hang on, kids are here, wife's here. I'd say, go and take a picture for me. Go and do that. So I did get the photos. I just had to think a little bit different. But what was really noticeable was I was sitting in the restaurant at night, and I'd be like, "All right, guys, is no one wanting to speak?" And we're all like this.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm the one that's always on it, and probably on it more than them. So it was quite a strange thing, but it was a big win for me in this quarter. I wrote that down the other day when I was reviewing my quarter, and I thought, I actually managed 2 weeks like that. It's fucking bizarre, So
I loved it. I did 2 weeks as well, exactly the same as you, but I just did, I think, an hour or 2 hours every morning. I just said to Laura,
yeah,
like, let me just have between 7 and 9 in the morning, see what's coming, see what, if anything is good, and then just lock it
yeah,
away. Like, and honestly, it's the best holiday I think I've ever had. It just felt like, I don't think I could ever do 2 weeks without it because I think you need to check in and almost keep it on those
yeah.
tasks. But I actually felt so good at the end of the holiday because I felt that was the start of some control over that balance. And I think that's what I think just having the two phones really helps with that because I was still able to take pictures. I was still able to, people still able to contact
Hmm.
me on the holiday. But it was just a really nice balance.
Yeah, I think having the two SIM cards and one phone, it's still easy just to flick the switch, isn't it? It's only a
Yeah,
switch away.
yeah.
So if you could look back to an 18-year-old you, what one bit of advice would you give yourself?
advice to change my life, or like
If you could look
advice
back
to
on
encourage me or something.
anything, any
Yeah,
advice you could give an 18-year-old you.
yeah. I'd say to take more risks at 18 in terms of my career. I felt, but then I don't know whether that's helped me to where I am. Do you know what I mean? Because I think the beginning of my career it was more slow paced. I was almost trying to learn my trade. I think I wish I'd gone and worked for Gordon
Hmm.
Ramsay. Like after talking to you, I wish I'd just taken that risk and kind of gone all in the game of
Hmm.
poker and just thought, you know what, let's do it. Let's go work for Gordon Ramsay. But ultimately, I think if I had to give myself, a pep talk, it would be, you know what, those hours. Some weeks are really difficult, some weeks are really hard, and you're learning a lot, but they will get
Hmm.
better. And the more you learn, the more you can kind of cope with change and hard weeks. And yeah, because there's times in my career where I was literally crying at the end of the week, like, why am I doing this? Or when you have to make decisions about missing the family's wedding, or
Yeah.
like not seeing your girlfriend, it was hard, but I feel like I've got to where I want to be by going through all of that.
Yeah, that's definitely a pain a pain point. The amount of family weddings or parties that I've missed, or friends saying, "Do
Yeah,
you want to come out for a meal this weekend?" But it's Thursday. Why are you asking me now? You need
yeah,
you know
this weekend, yeah,
what are you talking about? Like it's like not like I've just taken this job on.
yeah.
This is what I do. So what's been one of the best compliments you've ever had from someone that's been memorable?
That's um that's a great question, and I'm actually quite lucky with the answer because someone came into the restaurant literally maybe a week or two ago, and they work in management consultant in terms of like building a team. And what they said to me was like they were amazed that I was able to have the team at Etch and also do things like the Bingham and the Tunnel Club, and they were struggling to understand how I'm able to do it. They didn't mention the food, so for me,
Okay, that'll be you back now.
oh, did I
Yeah, it's
did I
okay.
drop
Don't worry
off?
about it. It's fine. So yeah, so that was the consultant came in and they said that they couldn't understand how you done the team and have so many businesses.
Yeah. So they asked me how old I was. I said I was 37, and they said it was really admirable uh, that they could see what I'd achieved from the team at Etch, but also being able to run multi sites must be a huge challenge. And for me to get a compliment on, I think you mentioned it earlier, the
Hmm.
team, that means more to me than complimenting the food because as a chef, the food should be
Hmm.
good. That's my bread and butter. But managing a team and getting the team to work together is difficult, as you know, because there's lots of variables in there. And it's something I'm really proud of the team
You've got you've
at
you've got
Etch.
more control of the food than you have of your staff. Really, that's
Yeah,
definitely more in your control. If do you read books? Do you?
I'm not a big
No.
reader, no. I'm more of a visual learner.
Yeah.
I need to start
So
reading books, I know,
I'm
but
dyslexic and heavily dyslexic, so reading was something just was never on my parameter. But since I've been kind of doing this for the past few years, I've been doing audibles. Holy shit, that's been like transformed me. So when I'm in my car driving
yeah.
to work or I've got meetings or anything like that, or just spare time at the gym, put a book on. I was just going to ask if there's any books that you would recommend for the listeners, but if you do not read,
No, but you know what? Like audibles is something that I've put on my list of things to do this
hmm,
year because, like yourself, I'm more of a visual learner, or I need to hear it,
yeah.
and I'm not great at readings, but I also want to learn as much as I can.
Hmm.
And I think I'd love to know what your favorite audible is so far this year because I'll get a bit of paper and I'm going to write it down.
I'll tell you now. I'll just go on.
I'll turn the interview onto you now.
Right, it doesn't bother me. Not a problem. Right, library. I would say the best I've had, Unreasonable Hospitality. So
Yeah.
that's by Will Goodara. That is probably my best book of the year. Black Box Thinking is another one. Now, Russell Kane told me to read that. That is an amazing book. So that's all about black box thinking, as in like an airliner make mistakes, but you've got to learn by the mistakes. So you've got to encourage your team to fess up, and there's not a punishment for making a mistake. We'll look at it and we'll say, well, how can we fix it? What do we learn from it? And all of a sudden, people don't hide things anymore. So it's kind of been quite a good thing for me, because the ex forces, I was called the Führer. I was called the Führer when I came into business, because if it wasn't fucking done right, it was mayhem. So it was like that. That's really a great way of looking at business. Another one would be the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. So there are three books that I would probably recommend that I've read this year that I think are great. Um, I like listening to different things. So like I like listening, being ex forces. I like listening to like Foxy. So Jason Fox, Ollie
Mm.
Ollie in as well. I think they're really good because they've got. I can relate to a lot of the things that they say, and that coming out the forces is quite a difficult thing. And that is quite a big development change for me, from being told what to do, what to eat, where to go, what to wear, and then to all of a sudden, fucking hell, I'm on my own now. I've got to pay bills as well. What the fuck? So
Yeah.
going into business was actually quite good, because it meant I took control of it, rather than being told by people that probably I didn't respect. Um, but I think back to the reading. The reading's a good way of takes your mind off of work. It takes your mind off of work, but it doesn't. It makes you think of work, but it'll think of it in a different way. So you're looking at different things, and it's I don't know. It's been a big game changer to me, to be honest. And I give myself a task of listening to 6 books a quarter, and I've done 9 last quarter.
Wow.
So yeah, but you find there's so many times you're in the car, or you're out for a walk. You might just want to stick the headphones in, or even while you're working in the office, it can be a decent distraction. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, what one bit of advice would you give to anyone wanting to get into the hospitality industry? Any sector?
Any sector would just be to put yourself out of your comfort zone. I think there's so many
Hmm.
chances to learn now more than ever, and I think it must be
Hmm.
overwhelming for a young chef because all the information's there available to you. But for me, it would be to do stages, contact the chefs that you admire and want to be like, and work in their kitchen and see if it is really what you want to do and
Hmm.
what you can learn from that process. And you might get offered a job at the end of it as well. I think CVs are good, but ultimately, chefs want to know exactly what you're like when you're there and working, and make sure that you're learning and doing everything that they want you to do.
Hmm. And doors are there to be kicked open, aren't they? You
Yeah.
once you get into one kitchen to do stage, there's a good chance that someone can help you open, or it will help you open another door into somewhere else, until you find the path of where you want to be. Really, eh?
100%. Like we had a stagiaire earlier in the year, and he was really good, but we didn't have a job vacancy for him. And he actually said to
Hmm.
us, he said, what would we do if we were him? And I said, well, we've got contacts, we've got Little Fish Market in 64 degrees. And I think I
That's
just
a great.
messaged,
That's a great.
yeah,
Two great places there. Little Fish Market's amazing.
yeah. And I think he said,
Duncan.
would I mind putting an introduction for him? So he then used us to do the
Hmm.
introduction because I regarded him so highly. So I just said, yeah, absolutely. I said, I'm happy to put
Hmm.
you in contact with Michael Bremner, and he's hopefully still working at 64 degrees, and he wasn't, and he was good. But I think what you said
Another
there, the
another
doors
good
open. Yeah,
another good Aberdonian, Michael.
yes, yeah, absolutely. But that's what I mean. Though, like, what's nice is that all the restaurants are chef owned, so you can all relate to each other, and I think it's
Hmm.
a community. It's not a competitive community. We're all after a different market. Or a different slice. I mean, the good thing with cooking is that you don't just go back to the same restaurant. You want to have diversity in your diet. I mean,
Hmm.
even for special occasion, it must be boring just to keep going to the same one. You want to you want to have a crowd of
No,
a
you've got
pool of restaurants to kind of choose from, and that's what's nice in Brighton is
yeah,
that we have
definitely.
got that different levels of cooking, different styles, different cuisines. And we kind of tick a lot of boxes in the city.
Yeah, I think that's like I said earlier on. One of the things that I've found as well when you go into Brighton is you can go into a restaurant and meat's the minority item
Yeah,
because there's so many vegan places, and you're like, holy shit! But it actually is quite good because you try different things that you wouldn't normally try. And there's so many young up and coming chefs coming test the water there. I feel one of the places that I did used to go like was the Set.
yeah,
I thought that
really
was a
good. Yeah,
great
Dan
a
Kenny.
great concept.
Yeah, they're still going really strong. I
Yeah,
think Dan's cooking is amazing. I'd say he's a chef. You know, the food that he's doing is
hmm
very, very cool.
yeah, it's funky and cool. Okay, I have to say thank you very much, Stephen. It has been an absolute honour and a privilege to have you
No,
on
it's my
here.
pleasure to be on.
So thank you very much, and all the
And we'll
best.
catch up soon.